Psychedelics aren't about going to the forest to see demons, dragons, or dinosaurs. They can be. I do see the merit in all forms of medication, whether it be big pharma or medicinal, as in non-big pharma. Psilocybin is actually a poison. It's the poison of the mushroom, and it's the body reacting to the poison. That's why you get the rush and the feelings that you do. With mushrooms at the moment, there's no regulation. It's hitting the market, and there's a lot of products out there. There's a lot of names, and there's a lot of cross combinations, and there's a lot of this mushroom crossed with that mushroom to make it stronger and last longer. The nice thing about mushrooms is if you keep them nice and low dosed, you can gauge a party by what the party is. And you can't do that with alcohol. You can't do it with cannabis. But as long as you're changing the mushroom for what you need, it works out. And keep the doses low. Most important.
Greetings, seekers of ancient wisdom, and we are back again. Today's episode, we are talking about psilocybin. Do you guys know what psilocybin is? Well, I've got the perfect guest to help us uncover this extremely fascinating molecule. So, Daniel, welcome to the show.
Howdy, hi, everybody. How you doing? I'm Dan. I'm uh, I'm Dan. I've been around for a while, and growing up in the 80s and 90s, things were limited. We had a bit of a shrouded environment. The apartheid didn't just deal with people's lives; it dealt with the drugs we were available to get. We had to look hard and wide to find things that would work for us. I'm lying. My life isn't all about drugs. But there was a point in time in our lives, yes.
Yeah, so actually, on that, Daniel, because I've come to know you as the psilocybin expert. So, for people that don't know what psilocybin is, it's the active ingredient in magic mushrooms. And for people who don't know what magic mushrooms is, it's mushrooms that give you hallucinogenic feelings, uh, heightened awareness, heightened feeling, and sensory. Your senses become heightened.
Psychedelic effects. Anything that gives you a, anything that gives you a psychedelic effect is something that is a psychedelic. You get psychedelic effects from many things, actually. Funny enough, too much cigarette smoke, too much alcohol, too much of these things that are common to practice to most people around the home actually could even give you a psychedelic effect. When you have a pass out or you believe you've seen something, well, guess what? However, moving forward, most mushrooms are not psychedelic. Most mushrooms are what we refer to as medicinals or edibles, things that you can eat every day. Actually, things you must only do eat every day. You know those brown things that you have with your eggs in the morning? Or those white things that we slice up, those button mushrooms that we put into salads? Shiitakes, you've heard of those ones, and there's so many of these new ones that are coming onto the market. And you see them in all these vegetable stores, and you think, are these dangerous? Could these do something to me? Well, no. If they're on the shelf at the vegetable shop, they're good for you, and they're healthy for your gut, and they're really good for your brain, and they're really good for the well-being of your personal inwards. The darker the mushroom and the heavier the mushroom itself, the more important it is to something blood related or something with your heart or lungs. The lighter the actual color and feeling of the mushroom, the more it's got to do with personal well-being, whether it's being brain or blood related. Something like cordyceps, for instance, is a funny mushroom because it grows very weirdly. We're not going to get into that right now. However, it's very, very good for when it comes to oxygenation of the blood. And that's got a couple of sides to it. I mean, like a pre-workout before you go to gym, or something you eat before you jump into bed. I mean, uh, you know, every kind of these medicinal mushrooms that people are eating, lion's mane, chaga, reishi, people are going mad about it. Turkey's tail. They have so many medicinal benefits, and they're healthy, and they're good for your gut, and some of them even taste really good. Like lion's mane really tastes really good. Moving forward, there are another side to mushrooms. Actually, every mushroom is edible at least once. Some of them are only edible once, if you get my meaning. There are a couple of mushrooms. There are a couple of mushrooms that will make you either very sick, or depending on the reaction you have to it, might even kill you, depending on the quantities. However, I'm not saying that there are any ways to go out and get these mushrooms so you can kill people. I don't think it's a good idea, especially if you're not going to throw it at them. You've got to get them to eat it. So don't do it. It's not happy. It makes people upset. And if it doesn't work, they'll know to you. So we move forward. There are yummy mushrooms. Most of them are edibles. Some of them are bad for you. And then there are some called psychedelics. Psychedelic mushrooms, they're in a range of their own. They have many chemical names and many scientific names. Psilocybin cubensis or Psilocybin zircins. There are these names that broader spectrums of these big names of what the whole group of mushrooms are called. Well, let's call it a Toyota or a Ferrari or a Nissan or a Mazda. And they're all cars. But some are racing cars, and some are four-wheel drives, and some are like commercial cars, and some are electric, get you to work every day kind of cars. And because there's so many different categories, you've got to know exactly what you're looking for, and you've got to have someone who's going to direct you in the right direction for the product that you're seeking. Hi, my name's Dan Gimple to be exact. I've been taking psychedelics pretty much for about 30 odd years. More recently, I've started taking a little bit more ever since the onset of COVID. I found that cannabis, which is something that I consume, gives me a certain feeling and it gives me a certain rush, but inevitably it gives me a, a downer, a more relaxed, chilled vibe. Sometimes you're looking for something that's got a little bit more of a vibe to it, something that's going to give you an ability to see further than what you think you can see. It's not something that you can see a reality of. It's more like when you close your eyes and when you go to sleep, the things that you dream about. What if it was easier during the day? What if we didn't have to take so many meds to calm our minds? Which is the best direction for us to go? During Corona, I actually had a music studio. I'm actually sitting in it right now. There's some musical gear in the background, the acoustics on the ceiling. I've got a terrible camera. I'm really sorry. But it's my laptop. One day I'll get a better one, like maybe a Mac. I hear those things are careful. Anyway, I had a music studio and music was going amazing. And then Corona hit. And then for 3 years, we weren't allowed to make music. And we couldn't get together into groups of people. I found a business that was relating to psychedelic cannabis or psilocybin. And I started hunting it at stores around the country with a concept of what if instead of smoking or drinking, we could just eat a chocolate? What if we could dose something so particularly well that every time you took it, you knew what was happening? Because majority of the problems that we're facing nowadays is you're looking at an environment where people are going to a pub and they're drinking and drinking, drinking and drinking, and every night they go to the same place and they keep on drinking. Or you're getting people who are taking very hardcore drugs and they don't know what they're taking, and they're not understanding what they're taking. It's just chemical after chemical after chemical. I look around at the people around me that are taking antidepressants, and they've got so much stress going on, and there must be an underlying feature. There must be something that's making them stressed. However, they're taking medication to block out these problems. I don't find that medication is something that's working. I feel that maybe they need to try to find something that can give them information rather than take away information. And the one thing I noticed from taking psilocybin myself was I was able to zero in on one emotion and one idea at a time. I'm not too sure about ADHD or ADHD, ADHD or DCDH. There's a lot of those words. But when I sit down, I'm thinking about 1,000 things. And when I take a little bit of psilocybin, I'm only thinking about one thing at a time. And I'm not talking about getting high. I'm not talking about anything else. I'm talking about I'm only doing the dishes, and therefore I get the dishes done. I'm only thinking about a podcast, and therefore I get the podcast done. I'm only thinking about writing a letter, and I actually get through the letter without standing up and getting 5 cups of coffee. I find that small doses, and when I say small doses, I'm talking about under half a gram small doses, actually under an eighth of a gram of real mushroom, not extracts, not something that's been done in a lab. Um, Sorry about the wording. I hope it's going to be fine. Um, Finding that something so small and so insignificant to the bigger picture can actually give me so much more of a bigger picture because I can see one thing at a time. And for me, that's most important. So as a user, I figured it was possibly a good idea to let people around me know what I was going through and how I was dealing with things. And I created a brand that allowed me to do this. I, 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 I don't want to advertise, but the plan was to get the knowledge out so that people could understand psychedelics aren't about going to the forest to see demons, dragons, or dinosaurs. They can be. So can alcohol. So can heroin, lots of other drugs. But why should it be? Why can't we just be happy with just a bit? Why can't we arrive at a swimming pool with a couple of friends for a braai, and instead of bringing 5, 6 packs of beer, why can't we just bring a couple of little chocolates and we'll all get the giggles? We'll all be in the same place. We'll have a really good afternoon, and after 2 hours, it wears away, and then you're sober, and then you can get in your car and drive. Or you could take a couple of bottles of brandy and a couple of 6 packs and some champagne. And obviously, the problem with that is that every 20 minutes you have to recycle your alcohol intake to keep yourself in the same buzz. Psychedelics is an hourly thing. Cannabis is a half an hour thing. Alcohol is about a 20-minute thing. So every now and then you have to keep on topping up. If you can keep your psychedelic range low enough, it's not about going high, it's about getting yourself to a point where you smooth off and you're just above the feeling of a glass and a half of white wine. You've got the warmth, you've got the buzz, you've got the giggles, and you've got the laughter, and your friends are the same as you. If we could continuously keep this in mind, I don't think it makes a difference what we consume. But we're in a country where we consume a lot. And I feel that there's a couple of things that need to happen. First of all, we need to consume a whole lot less alcohol, cigarettes, smoking cannabis, consuming psychedelics, other illegals. Ding. There are a lot of things that we as South Africans, or humans for that matter, need to. Sorry, back now. There's a lot of things that we need to consider as humans, and we need to move forward with them. Most importantly, uh, the human body doesn't need. We just need to feed it and get ourselves strong. If we can do that, we will live pure, healthy lives. What you put in your body is pretty much like what you put into a computer. Bullshit in, bullshit out. If you're going to put crap into your body, you're going to look like crap at the end. I don't look the best now, but I've also been putting crap into my body. Excuse the terminology. I really like cake. I don't like. I like cake. Cake's my cake and chocolate. It's my thing. Anyway, moving back to it. Psilocybin is a really good way to expand your environment and to control the high that you're looking for.
Yes, because this is so fascinating because we have had people on our podcast before talking about psilocybin use in ceremonies, and they use it like ayahuasca has become very popular now over the last decade. People go to a shaman and they do ayahuasca, and it helps them connect with their higher self or whatever. And psilocybin has become very popular as well in ceremony environment, where there's a facilitator, and the facilitator is like looking over you. They give you the mushrooms to eat. They prepare you for the ceremony, and they watch over you, holding the space while you are tripping on the psilocybin. And then afterwards, they will talk to you and all of that stuff. But you're not talking about that at all. You're talking about a recreational use of psilocybin. You even spoke about how you're taking small doses of psilocybin and it's helping you focus. It's helping you concentrate and to do one task. This is very different from all the discussions I've had about psilocybin to date. So I'm really, really fascinated. What are your views about the ceremony space, and how, yeah, how does it all fit in?
Okay, I love that question. I love it. I'll tell you why I love that. Everything has its space. What would the 70s have been if there wasn't that dude who sat down people on a couch, gave them LSD, and saw what their reaction was? How would we know where we were today? How would that dude in the Middle East, let's not make any trouble right now, how would that dude in the Middle East have, in the 70s, have figured out what LSD was without, with THC was, without actually trying things? I must say that there is, and I've seen work done with huge amounts of mushrooms, and I've seen both sides. I have. I've seen people walk in saying, or walking out saying, "Wow!" Wow! They went somewhere, they got 50 grams of mushrooms in one weekend. 50 grams. Whoa. What are you, the Mike Tyson guy? Jeez Louise, 50 grams of mushrooms. What? In a weekend? How much did you vomit? How much did you poo? How much did you sweat? Did you see the world beyond? I mean, obviously you don't, because you don't leave your body. I'm a realist, not a free thinker. I don't believe my soul or consciousness can ever leave my body until the day I die. So for me, it's all about that inner thought. But the biggest problem I have with all of these retreats is before you go there, you sign a form. And before you start, they send you a piece of paper. And on the piece of paper, whether it's an email or a letter or a news report or something, they send you information of what you may see, what you may encounter. And unfortunately, like any form of drug, when you're that far down, you start thinking about things that you've read or seen before in the past to try and explain away what you're feeling and what you're seeing. When it comes to such quantities, I feel like people are guided into feeling or seeing or doing what they're asked of, as opposed to enjoying something for what it is. I do see the merit in all forms of medication, whether it be big pharma or medicinal, as in non-big pharma. I do believe that with the aid of Turkey Tail, John Stamets's mom was able to recover well from the actual medication she was getting, the chemotherapy that she was actually getting. It's not the turkey tail healed her, the chemotherapy healed her, but the turkey tail helped with other things. It was fantastic. People take copious amounts of products thinking they're going to do things instantly and they're going to help them out. People stand on stages saying this is the only way you should consume this product. And I'm not that guy. I'm really not that guy. I quite literally am saying to you, don't be that guy. When you're holding some mushrooms in your hand, I'll show you, there's my hand. When you've got mushrooms in your hand and like people say, how much are you taking? You say, I don't know, it was just, well, you may as well be seeing that lady down on the coast just giving you 50 grams on a weekend. You've no concept of the name or the style of the mushroom that you're taking. You've no concept of the quantities that you're consuming, nor the quantities that your body can actually deal with. I might have a big mess and you might have a lighter mess as far as weight is concerned. However, you may be able to deal with mushrooms a lot better than I can deal with mushrooms. It's got nothing to do with the mass of the body. It's got to do with the mental state of mind. It's also got to do with how used to the product you are. It's also got to do with what they're called, SSRIs. People are taking like medication for depression and stuff. You're not going to get smacked by mushrooms because the SSRIs are going to counter it. Which means if you're going to try, you're going to be doubling up to try and get it to work. Which means you're going to be counteracting the SSRIs that you're already taking for your medical problem. I don't feel it's the right thing to do. Rather stop the SSRIs and wait a couple of weeks and then try the product. Or stay on the SSRIs and don't try anything else that might make problems for you. When taken in low doses, they are amazing. Sitting down for a game of cards or a game of chess with a small 100 milligram dose of psilocybin, preferably something like a golden teacher or an Amazonian. We're talking about mushrooms that are on a lower dose that won't mess you up. There are stronger mushrooms, much. They're much. Psilocybin is the scentless, odorless chemical. It's that blue bruising that you see in the mushroom when it's been deaded or been touched many times. Only on psychedelics, though. You won't see it on like a lion's mane. See it on a cordyceps. It's not going to bruise blue because it just doesn't contain. Some mushrooms actually grow to look blue. Blue meanies, psilocybin, you know, they actually are blue, and they're like a really fantastically blue from get go. They're not good. They're very strong. There's more blue, the more strength. It's an issue. The smaller the dose you take, the better it is for you. You'll have a wonderful time because it's all about when I get home from work in the afternoon, I sit down and I have a glass of wine. Well, instead of having a glass of wine, why don't you have 100 milligrams of? Not every day, once or twice a week. Why do you have to have wine every day? If you have wine every day, your body gets used to it. So the next day you want a little bit more wine. If you have psilocybin every day, the body's going to get used to it. So you're going to want to have a little bit more every other day. You don't have more because you're addicted to the psilocybin. You have more because you want to have that feeling again that you had on the first day. But psilocybin's a poison, unlike a chemical that was created in a lab, like LSD. Psilocybin is actually a poison. It's the poison of the mushroom, and it's the body reacting to the poison. That's why you get the rush and the feelings that you do. The lightheadedness, the warmth in your chest, that you yawn that you get, and the stretch, that's getting oxygen into your body when your body starts recognizing something's happening. But after that yawn, you don't have to be messed up. You don't have to be able to, you don't have to have the inability that you can't drive or walk, where you have to sit on a couch or lie on the floor and get watched by 5 people in case you start having an epileptic fit. You don't know what's going to happen to that person when you give them 50 grams of mushrooms, 30 grams of mushrooms. Remember back in the 70s when they were doing those, let's see if this rat will die when we give it 150 grams of, what is it, that sugarless sugar, what is it, sucralose or something. Huh? Yes, the rat died. Well, it ate 150 grams of non-nutritive sugar and it killed it. Well, it must be bad for humans. Mushrooms aren't bad for people. Mushrooms are good for people. I feel that there's a place in the world for people who are using mushrooms for um, trying to get the problem out of your mind. And that's when you're sitting down with a counselor, a medical person, a qualified person. Sorry, that's the word I'm looking for. A medical qualified person on one side, and then you can have a psychedelically qualified person on the other side. And then you need a third person who's going to be running around getting water and tea, coffee, stuff. Well, you won't need any food, but you will need drinks. Every year at different events, I see people talking about the need for these psychedelic needs and why you must do this and how it's going to make you feel so much better. Every couple of days, I hear another person telling me about this ayahuasca thing they've gone through because ayahuasca is the way forward. I think snake oil, much. Ayahuasca is a psychedelic. You spend 3 to 5 days preparing to consume it. You do consume it. You pass many liquids from many different orifices of your body for quite a while. You, funny enough, start hallucinating and seeing things, which pretty much they told you was going to happen before you signed the paperwork. And then you come out of it a couple of hours later, or 12 hours later, or whatever it is. And people go through this process every couple of months, believing that this is good for them. As I said, I like psychedelics like a glass of white wine. One here, one there, a little bit here, a little bit there, because a little bit gets me in a good mood, keeps me happy, stops me from wanting to smoke things. I don't want to drink. I don't want to smoke. I don't want to do anything. I just want to enjoy the things around me. At low doses of psychedelics, you still get in heightened senses taste, smell, hearing, touch. Ah, the fluffy curtains and the fluffy walls, and it's fantastic, and everything still feels good. The feel and the touch and the hear and the warmth in your chest, and the feeling of the pillow on your head. Nice and light, just like white wine does, or a couple of beers. Are we using products in the wrong way? Are we using them to to hide or mask the situation that we're living under? I don't believe that ayahuasca is necessary. However, they've been doing it in South America for a couple hundred or thousand years, whatever the story is. I had the opportunity to take while I was in Peru. I chose not to. It was in a jungle. There was nothing clean, and it was 5 days from anything like a hospital walk. So we hiked it. I didn't want to. I chose against it. I saw other people doing it. Everyone was fine. I feel if I would have done it, I also would have been fine. I just didn't think it was necessary to take the chance. I have a history of bad heart in my family. Thinking about taking something that would be so catastrophic to the body and being so far away from medical aid or medical use was for me quite a considering effort. I really had to think about it. And even though I'd taken the trek and gone all the way, I still felt fine watching the other guys do it and sitting with them and listening to their problems and listening to them talk through their problems. And I saw the merit in it. I won't run you down if this is your business. I'm sorry for if you think that that's what I'm trying to do. This is not it. I believe that everything has its place. If you believe that you're helping people out legitimately, I will support you. If you're doing this as a business to make money, I will not support you. If you're legitimately giving people huge amounts of dose every weekend, and it's just for you for making money, then that's your thing. My thing is different. I'm kind of like a travel agent. A home style travel agent. You wake up in the morning, you have something small, it lasts an hour of psychedelic, but not really. I mean, you can adult, you can still do what you have to do. You can hold a knife, you can run the washing machine. I run the washing machine, I run the tumble dryer, I run the dishwasher, clean the knives and forks, I oil the cabinets, I work on my van, I work in my studio, I build, I cut, I use heavy machinery. Well, I mean, it's heavy sometimes, it's not really heavy, it's like a drill, you know, or an angle grinder, or a saw, cut saw. I have instruments that I like to use to make things, to build. I like doing this when I'm just a little bit. But more than one glass of wine is a very bad idea to try and touch anything. Because all of a sudden, more than one glass of wine is you're over the limit to drive. You're over the limit to handle machinery. You have an accident, you're not covered by any medical insurance. It's it's an issue. Do I consume product to worry about whether or not I'm going to get covered by medical insurance? No, I do it for personal gain. But you've got to worry that what if something happens? What if I slip over the dog? What if I trip over the dog? My head hits the table. The guy comes out, the ambulance, they pick me up, they take me to the hospital. We go through the hospital. They do a blood test. They find that things aren't all right in my system. And now I need to start paying out of my own pocket because medical aid says I'm not covered. Anything can happen at any point in time. We try to restrict these things from happening in our lives all the time. We take efforts and make sure that we have people around us that can take care of us when we're in these situations. When taking huge amounts of anything, you really need to make sure you've got at least two people around you that you can trust. And at least one of them can't consume anything. No alcohol, no smoking, no nothing. He or she, or them, or they, or I'm trying to include everyone here, everyone across the board has the opportunity to be that person. And you've got to be there for everybody else. And you've got to know, even though this is my party, I'm the one that's staying sober so that everybody else can have a good time. This way, if something happens, one of us has at least got the power to do something. When it comes to small doses, you don't particularly have to worry about such things. You take a small dose, it won't affect you badly because it's a small dose. If it does affect you badly, you would have known about it before. If you didn't know about it before, there is somebody around there to help you. That's the nice thing about small doses. And when I say small dose, I'm talking about anything under 150 milligrams. So anything like an eighth of a gram and lower. You really shouldn't be pushing excessive amounts to consume because it's not worth it. Because your body gets used to it. And then you start craving to get a high that you're not wanting. My hand. So you again, you went over and you said, what do I feel about these people who take copious amounts and they take huge amounts? As I said, I'm all for it, as long as what you're doing is in the good intentions, and as long as what you're doing is actually working. I met a lady more recently, and she went to a retreat, and they fed her 15 grams. She had the worst time of her life. She was sick. She was not good. She was in a very bad place. There wasn't enough support. There were 5 of them in the room, all taking it at the same time. There were only 3 people to assist. It was a very bad environment, and it didn't work out what they were expecting it to, especially not according to the paperwork that they were given. And in that situation, I'm not too sure what to say, but it just I don't know how I would deal with that, and I would tell them to do it differently. But it's becoming like a fad, and everyone wants to try it, and a lot of people out there are doing it. The same as the vape pens or the vape cartridges that are. Some of them are made legitimately, and some of them just have bad ingredients. Sometimes you get products that are just subpar. People are taking subpar products, and some products are like 10 times stronger than what people are imagining. You really need to know where you're getting your product from is most important. What the product is by name, With cannabis, it's like, oh, this man's got cheese, this man's got cheese, that man's got cheese, and that person's got cheese. And none of them smell or taste like cheese, but they're all claiming to have cheese, and none of them have actually bought it from a cheese place. The problem with this is that people are selling or buying mushrooms that aren't actually what they are. And there's no site like Leafly where we can go and get the information that we require. There's a couple of mushroom sites that, well, this one says this and this one says that. But when you're looking at something like Leafly, they got this. They're like, they're the council. They're the council for cannabis. You want to know what such and such you go to Leafly, you find out what it is. It tells you exactly what it is and where it comes from. With mushrooms at the moment, there's no regulation. It's hitting the market, and there's a lot of products out there. There's a lot of names, and there's a lot of cross combinations, and there's a lot of this mushroom crossed with that mushroom to make it stronger and last longer. Mushrooms last 8 hours. They don't last longer. They last longer if you add LSD to them, and they last longer if you add alcohol to them, and they last longer if you keep on taking them through the night. If you take mushrooms once, it's only going to last a certain amount of time, to a maximum of about 8 hours. That's how long psychedelics pretty much last. There are a lot of people who say to you, well, my LSD trip lasted me 13 hours. I understand. You must already took way too much. My mushroom trip lasted me 12 to 15 hours. I understand. You've been taking 25 grams at a time. It takes a body a long time to process that amount of psilocybin. Therefore, when you're taking psilocybin as a daily, or not a daily, but every couple of days as a small dose, it's a non-consequential. It's kind of like having a glass of wine or two every couple of days. Obviously, law and legal is a very big thing in our country. Please remember that you just got to check on the legality of product before you consume it. It's very important. It's very important because next thing you're taking something that you might get into trouble for. So just first of all, make sure you know what's going on. Make sure that it's legal. Make sure that people you're dealing with know exactly what they're doing, and they've got years of experience. Not just I'm a fly by night. I found this. I went on YouTube and I got this stuff for ayahuasca, and downloaded it from Timu, and I've got this ayahuasca, and I'm selling it to Chinas, and you give me $500 and you can come have a sip. That's a fly by night. There's a lot of them. There's a lot of them that are popping up over the last year. A lot of people saying they take you on ayahuasca journeys because they've done a ayahuasca journey and they've gotten all the stuff they need and they put it together. Mad scientists, I'm telling you, everyone's a mad scientist nowadays. They're making these things, they're getting them, they're buying them online, and they're concocting these things and they're putting it together. Things that, I don't know, shamans were making in the forest by beating roots and chewing on things and spitting into a jar. They now making at home with a glass beaker and a spatula. It's weird. Where's this ayahuasca coming from? Who is the shaman? Shaman is someone who's been doing things for how many years? How many years would you need to be a shaman? You know, I don't know. It's like being a priest or a rabbi or an imam. Shaman is surely a shaman is someone like a witch doctor, like someone who's been doing the craft for 20 or 30 years, or at least trained for 10 years before you were given this. I don't believe that everyone who's giving ayahuasca in South Africa is a shaman. I don't believe everyone who's giving mushroom retreats are actually registered medical or professional in any form of way to be giving these retreats. We don't have a medicinal mushroom catalog that can show us how much medicinal value each psychedelic mushroom has. It's a lot of questions that I have about everything that revolves around psychedelics, whether it be cannabis or psilocybin or LSD or there's so many of them, GBH or 2CB or wow, the lists go on and on and on. And the more websites you look at, and the more what are these lists that keep on arriving on my WhatsApp groups, these lists that people are selling of all these products that are available now. Man, there's so much stuff out there. How do you choose which one to go for? What is the right thing? What is the thing that's going to cure your problem? Well, is I don't think it's about a problem. I think it's going back to the beginning point, which I know it's very weird, and I've talked about a lot of things. My mind explodes sometimes, but going back to the beginning, which was at which point in time do you feel like you're moving past a glass of wine into too much? Because as South Africans, we consume way too much. When I watch other people from other countries consuming, whether it be alcohol or cannabis or cigarettes or uh, legal stuff, sugars, most countries have a consumption problem. Everyone's talking about how fat Americans are because they eat so much chocolate. South Africans aren't the thinnest either. Neither are Australians, And there's a lot of obese Chinese people all of a sudden. There never used to be. There's a lot of obese around the world. There's lots of it. How do we stop ourselves consuming so much? If we can work out a way to consume less, then everything will make so much more sense. Because then it will be about going out, having a glass of wine, and you're good for 2 hours. Imagine that. Imagine being able to have one one beer, one smoke for the whole night. Cannabis as opposed to nicotine. Nicotine, you're talking about every 10, 15 minutes. So imagine one cigarette every hour, one cigarette every 2 hours. Imagine if we could reduce what we need. Imagine if I could eat 5 less cookies a day, 2 less cakes a week. I mean, I don't eat that much cake. I'm possible. I might. A whole lot less chocolate. I ate a hell of a lot of chocolate. There's no doubt about it. Especially when I'm making chocolates. It's all over my fingers. Oh, that's a mistake. Never lick your fingers when you're working on chocolate. You never know what's in the chocolate. Anyway, um, if we could consume less as humans, we would have less problems to deal with generally. And then we wouldn't have so many stresses on a whole.
Yes, so I got a lot of questions now because I want to talk about my psilocybin experience. So I'm not as old as you, Dan. I'm a little bit younger. So I grew up in the 2000s. So in the 2000s, I was in my 20s, had my first job, had money in my pocket, disposable income, and that's when we start doing things as young people. So naturally, my friends and we heard about magic mushrooms in the early 2000s. And back then, I see Dan has changed into a raccoon, but anyway. So back then, it was very hard to find magic mushrooms. You couldn't just go to the shop like we can today and go into the clubhouse and choose your stuff. Back then, you had to find a dealer and you had to go into a dodgy little corner and he'll give you something. Anyway, that was my experience in the beginning with magic mushrooms. And we would go back to someone's house and we would all chow whatever mushrooms we had, maybe a gram each or 2 grams each, whatever it is, and then have a little jolly time at the place. Then I got introduced to psytrance parties. And psytrance parties, mushrooms are much more available, it's much more open, everyone is consuming it, and it's really important if you want to enjoy the music that is played at a psytrance party, this high psychedelic, high BPM trance music. And so for me in my early 20s, magic mushrooms I would do a couple of times a year, but it was very recreational. It was to party at a psytrance party or to hang out with friends and have a good time. And there is always, not always, but most of the time, there's the one guy who doesn't have a good time on mushrooms. Everyone is having a great time, but this one guy gets lost in some thought pattern and he can't get out of it and he starts getting depressed. He goes back to some horrific event and then he's like not enjoying it at all, and he has to get away from the group, and he's like, I hate this stuff, I can't get when it's going to end. But that was very rare, but I have noticed that has happened to some people. And anyway, fast forward about 10 more years, so we come to 2020, COVID happens. I need to get out of my corporate work. I don't enjoy my life. And I stumble across a shaman. And the shaman says, we're going to do a ceremony. I'm going to give you some psilocybin and it's going to change your life. So I'm like, okay, sign me up. I don't like my life at the moment. So let's go do it. So I go do this ceremony with a shaman. And it's just me and her in the middle of the forest somewhere, and we prepare for a week. She actually prepares me for 6 months. So we start doing like meetings, consultations for a few times. We do a breath work session. We have the forms, like you say, that I have to fill out and sign and all the rest. Anyway, she gave me 5 grams of golden teachers, not 50, just 5 grams, which was quite a still a big dose. And anyway, for me, it was the most amazing spiritual experience I ever had. And from that moment, I quit my corporate career and somehow ended up, not somehow, I know exactly how it happened. I've spoken about it on other podcasts, but now I run a natural health practice using energy medicine, rife machines, homeopathy, reflexology, and I am so happy in my life. I don't have much money, but in terms of my life happiness, I am really, really happy with what I'm doing. I'm enjoying what I'm doing. But that ceremony completely shifted my relationship with psilocybin because now I can't do it. Well, not that I can't do it, I don't have the calling or the feel to do it recreationally. So I still do psilocybin maybe once a year or once every 2 years, but then I have like a spiritual experience. It's for me like connecting with my higher self and figuring out where I should go. It's like a compass almost. It's like a check of where I am and what I need to do, or just connect with my higher self for that time. But like you said, there is a place for everything, right? So there is the recreational aspect and there is the ceremony aspect. I guess if they're done correctly, can be very, very life changing for you. But I want to hone in on the person that I spoke about who had the bad experience. Why does that happen? Why do some people taking not a huge dose? I mean, back in the day, we would just do a 1 gram or 2 gram golden teachers type of thing. But the one guy would get lost and depressed and frustrated, and he has to sort of separate from the group. Why does that happen? Why does psilocybin do that to some people? I mean, do you have any idea?
Not many ideas. I really didn't study too much into it. I would actually like to learn a bit more about that. Anyone out there want to send me up some information, please do so. I'll do my own bit of information as well about that, my own little research. There's a couple of things. It's a mood enhancer. If you've just had a breakup with your chick, if you've just had a bad information, your mom is sick, your dog has died recently, there's reason for you to feel like you're in a bad place. there's a very high chance you're not going to have the best trip of your life. If you've just had a very uncool phone call from some insurance company and they've been on your tits for the last 3 days and they just keep on phoning and hanging up and phoning and hanging up, it's going to make you mad. It's going to put you in the wrong place. If you've just been fighting with your parents about something, if you've just had a fight with the wife, if your boss has just given you grief about a picture that you drew or a, a document that you've just had. You know, a lot of people, they go straight to the alcohol because alcohol is cool because, you know, you drink your whiskey and then you just have this better feeling. I think I don't drink. It's been 25 years.
But I think you explained it nicely. It's a mood enhancer, right? So that's exactly what it is. So if your mood is bad, it's going to enhance that mood. If your mood is good,
If you if you're always like the loner and you always like to sit in your room and work on your phone or sit behind your computer and do your thing by yourself, you're going to feel more comfortable going to sit in a corner and taking your mushrooms because you're not used to getting up and going and joining the party. People who are used to getting up and joining the party will be getting up and having more of a party than you. Just because you've taken mushrooms doesn't make you a party person. You have to make yourself a party person to enjoy the mushrooms as a party environment. Drinking copious amounts of alcohol isn't going to take the bullet out of your leg once you've been shot, but it's going to take away the pain. It's going to help numb the area and numb the pains and maybe give you a bit of a giggle. But it's not going to make you hate your life. However, taking psychedelics after you've been shot is a very bad idea. You're going to have some very bad thoughts. The pain is going to put you in a very bad place. You're going to look at your leg or your foot, your arm, wherever it happened. Visions are going to come into play that you've seen once in a movie called Hellraiser. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what's going to happen because you've got no filter. When you're high or that high and something happens to you, there's no filter. There's nothing that's going to stop the reaction from reacting to what's going on around you and within you internally. And if you're having a bad time, it's going to come out. And if your dad's been beating you and you haven't told anybody, it's going to come out. And it might manifest as a bad trip, or it might just manifest as you reacting badly and reacting to people around you badly and turning their trip into a bad situation. Knowing the people that you're tripping with is always a very big idea. Remember, there was that term set and setting. Where I'm sitting now is in the place that I'm most comfortable. Here's my cold drinks, there's the toilets, I've got the music right in front of me. I have control of everything around me. The only thing I don't have control of is what will happen to me when I consume the psilocybin. This cocaine, this ecstasy tablet, this alcohol, this line of cocaine, this I don't know, how does 2CB even come? I don't know if it's a tablet or what. Whatever it is that you whatever it is that you're consuming, as long as you know that everything around you is in your control, and as long as the dosages are relative, you should be able to be fine. But when there's bad, there's generally bad. And I have to say that 80% of the time where I've seen bad, like this lady who went for this mushroom trip, she'd recently been through a whole bunch of bad things. Death in the family, problems, medical problems, so many things. And she had a bad time. And there was no questionnaire done. Has this happened to you in the past? Has this happened to you in the past? What are you feeling like generally? When you said you had this trip where this person prepared you for 6 months, that's fantastic. Even if it was a month, even if it was 2 weeks. But nowadays, people are going for these ayahuascas. I'm going for ayahuasca ceremony next week. Oh, but we're eating steak and chips. Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. They told me at least it's 3 days before. Okay, just just remember that your body's going to react differently with meat proteins inside of it.
Yeah, yeah. So I got a question. I got a question. I need to ask this because, okay, so recently I bought one of Dan's mushrooms from the shop, and they're covered in chocolate. They taste so delicious. Your chocolate mushrooms. Yes. So I have been vegan for about 5 or 6 years. So generally, I don't eat any meat. I mean, it does happen once in a while when I'm traveling and there's no food. I'll have like a chicken or an egg, but that's like once in a year, very, very sporadically. And junk food, I also have very little of junk food, like chips and chocolates and stuff. But I do have it. I'm not perfect, but very rarely. Anyway, this one day, I was planning it and I said, I'm going to have Dan's mushroom tonight. I've got some free time and I'm going to have it tonight. I've been waiting like months and I bought this chocolate for my annual spiritual journey with the psilocybin. But for some reason that day, I had an urge to have some chips, some Willards or Simba chips. I can't remember which one it was. So I was in the store in the junk aisle and I saw the chips that I like and I took the big packet, the 125-gram packet. And I thought, okay, I'm just going to have a little bit of this and I'll have it over the week. But unbeknownst to me, I ended up eating the whole packet. And this was in the afternoon. In the night, when I had the psilocybin, very, very quickly, like within an hour, I was like, oh my God, I don't feel good. Oh man. And I just started sweating everywhere. Like sweat was just dripping off my forehead. And I had to go vomit it all out because this yuck was in my system. And when I took the psilocybin was like, no, 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 we don't want this junk in here. Get it out. And it was like forcing it out. And you're talking about the steak and people eating junk. Somehow the psilocybin doesn't like your body to have junk in it, right? It works better when your body is clean. You know what I'm asking?
Most psychedelics actually do work better with you in a purer state of mind and a purer state of health. If you want the best reaction out of fuel, you make sure that every part of the engine is working top. Everything, you want the fuel, you want the petrol to work well. You make sure the carburetor is clean and that the pipe is clean down into the engine. And then from the engine, the pistons are clean and the valves are clean and the oil is perfect so that that bit of fuel can get every last bit of information through and into the engine and out the exhaust pipe. You want to get every last bit of that product. That's what it is. When you've got heavy meat and heavy cheeses, dairy products, um, just in case people want to know, dairy products counteract the effects of psilocybin. Yogurt, I've learned this the hard way. It's not the hard way, it's the good way because, when you take too much and you put it in yogurt and kind of not as strong, but it's cool. It's cool. I've worked it out over many years and I've read it on one or two pieces of paper on the interweb. And certain amount of things are just not too good to be in your body while you're consuming something or when you want it to take the most of the amount of effect. When it's in a chocolate, well, when it's in that kind of a chocolate, that specific chocolate, well, not that there's that specific brand. When it's in that specific brand, everything inside the chocolate is a powder form. The 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 it's not an extract of a mushroom. There are a lot of companies that are doing this. They're using a couple of different processes to make an extract. One is alcohol, Another one is, you try to remember this word again, ultrasonification. This is where they use an ultrasonic device to break down mushrooms within a medium, and then they use certain devices to extract the psilocybin as one part sitting in constant level within the medium. Um, and then they use that as a liquid psilocybin because it's tasteless and flavorless and odorless. They can use it as a mixture in anything. There are a couple of there is a drinks company, I think it's called something mushroom. I'm not going to advertise for them. And that's what they do. They use an extract and they mix it with a fruit juice and they put it in a jar or container and they sell it in stores. There are a couple other people that are doing these extracts with alcohol and they selling them in droppers, and some other people that are doing lemon based or what's it, citric acid extracts, and they're using these as a way to extract psilocybin from the mushroom. It's these are all good things. These are all good ways of doing things. However, the problem with an extract is the same like every extract. It's a super concentrated version, and it makes it very difficult to dose what you're looking for. Considering it doesn't come in an extracted version naturally, nobody actually knows how much anybody's actually using to create this extract. If people had a commercial certificate for the psilocybin base they were using, it would be easier. But the problem is that no one mushroom contains the same amount of psilocybin as another mushroom. I don't say that this one mushroom has got 15% psilocybin and this one has got 3%. I put them together and say that collectively I've got 5% or 7%. And that's an averaged. And when I'm doing my calculations and my measurements, that's what I keep in mind, that we've got to use an average work down to the lowest point, not the highest point, because of it may have up to a certain amount, but on average, most of the product's going to be at a certain level. With that in mind, using an extract creates those problems of how much to actually use. I don't use an extract, I use a base product, powdered up base product, and that makes it easier to gauge because when the question comes out, what are the exact levels? I can always answer it's based on the value of weight of a product, not the value of the psilocybin contained within. Making it more of a recreational product than a medicinal product, because when it comes to a medicinal product, you need to know exactly what's inside. You can't have guesswork. Guesswork can't come into play. You're doing something for the purpose of a medicinal outcome. You need to know exactly what you're taking out and what you're administrating. And that's where I find tinctures or extracts to be a bit of a weird one, because we don't have that as a natural or as a categorized document yet. I'm sure I've mentioned that before a little bit earlier.
So I completely prefer that you use the powdered form and not the extract, because I'm just skeptical when people are extracting a molecule or a compound from something in nature. Then this compound was stable there in its natural form, but now it's unstable, so now they have to attach something else to it to make it stable. And then you spoke about them using alcohol or this ultra solidification methodology. It just sounds like so unnatural for me. And
So, I mean, if we wanted lab work and we wanted lab products, we would stay with the standard lab products of LSD, because we know that we can get the exact dose that we're asking for every time by going to our dealer, who's always told us the truth, because he knows the truth because he was there when they made it, right? He was there when they poured the LSD onto that piece of paper. He wasn't. He bought it from another guy who also wasn't there, who bought it from another guy who imported it from Amsterdam. I don't know. I don't know. It's only things that I've seen on a movie called Train Spotting. You know, you know what I mean. There's a lot to be said about the products that we consume. Things that are made in a lab generally, I mean, even when it comes to THC, smoking cannabis is great. When it comes to dab or distillate or isolate or crackle or snapple pop, I don't know, so many Rice Krispie names nowadays. You know what I'm talking about. Shatter or crack or snackle or every extract of a product is no longer the original product. We have this cannabis law that says you're allowed to consume cannabis at home that you've grown at home, and it's legal. It's fantastic, but we have no regulation on cannabis growth, and then we have people who are saying, well, they can only consume cannabis if it's in dab form, which means they have to grow 500 trees to get their 20 grams of dab to smoke for the month, which kind of like it's it's not cannabis. It's an extracted version. It may have come out of a pharmaceutical lab. It came out of your pharmaceutical lab. Why can't it come out of Big Pharma's lab? You understand what I'm saying? When it comes to things like extracts and pulling things out and using, especially alcohol, I hate alcohol. People say, why did you use an alcohol extract? Well, I hate alcohol. I don't drink. I don't think it's necessary to use alcohol as an extract. And why are you mixing things? You don't put a Mercedes air filter into a BMW. You won't put Toyota wheels onto your Mazda. Why are you mixing alcohol and psilocybin? It's two completely different situations in your mind. It's two different problems that your mind has to deal with at the same time, which means that one is going to give you one kind of effect and the other one's going to give you some other kind of effect, but they're going to kind of start mixing against each other, and eventually someone's going to throw up. And there's going to need to be a purge, and you're just going to throw up, and it's going to become uncomfortable. It's the same as the greenies when you smoke before you drink. Don't smoke after you drink, or you get the greenies. Something. Drink, if you drink after you smoke. If you smoke after you drink, you get the greenies. If you drink before you.
Yeah, it's happened to me in my past when I used to drink. It's happened to me, but you only make that mistake once or twice.
No, no, no. When you're young and stupid, living in South Africa, when in excess, like I normally say all the time, in excess, this is our problem. The problem is if you're having one joint, one beer, and one shooter, it doesn't matter which order you take them in. But when you've had 10 beers and 5 double shooters in between the 10 beers, 6 brandy and cokes, and now somebody outside is like, hey, you want some joint? And you're like, lekker pot, I'll have some joint. You smoke this. Yeah, I can't smoke weed. It makes me feel sick. No, it only makes you feel sick because you drank 20 tons of liquid before you consumed the cannabis. Your mind was so far blown that when the merry-go-round was going this way, and then you smoked weed, and all of a sudden the merry-go-round was going this way. No wonder you.
So, Dan, we're coming to the end of our podcast, but I wanted to ask one final question. And if you can help, if you can help me to understand this. So, you mentioned some names of psychoactive magic mushrooms: golden teachers, albino penis envy, Amazonians. Like, what? I mean, for me, names don't really mean anything, but what are the differences between these magic mushrooms? Is it just the amount of psilocybin in it? Or is there something else that makes them different?
Wow, I'd love to find that one out. But yes, there is something else that makes him different. actually all mushrooms have different feels and different vibes. It's not like when you drink whiskey, you have a certain feel in your body, and you're more like, I'm not going to say the word manly, because what about the chicks who drink whiskey? So some chicks who drink whiskey are more manly, but we're moving forward past that story. Well, certain alcohols make you feel a certain way. Drink a glass of white wine, you get a warm chest. You feel a bit warm here. You feel like something's on top of your head. Your hearing gets a bit of a loss. You feel a bit of warmth around your arms and stuff, kind of like a niacin hit, you know? But that's what white wine does to you. Your second glass of white wine is going to give you a little bit more feeling, and your third and your fourth. But there's a big difference between wine and vodka, and it happens quickly because your first shot of vodka, not glass, your first shot of vodka is going to give you a nice warm feeling. It's going to give you a nice bit of a rage and a bit of an ariser, and yeah, something's happening. Huh? And it's going to make you want to like go and talk to people. You have a little hi, how you doing? And then you get something called stro rum. Do you remember that stuff? Stro rum 80s.
Oh, the 80%
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah, that stuff that used to burn a hole through the side of your nose, even though you drank it through your ear. That stuff. That stuff was crazy. You have a shot of that, yes, you you can take on the world. You can run down a bull. You can stab a goat in the face and still not worry about it bucking you in the head. It was great. Cannabis. Cannabis, you got indica and you got sativa and you got hybrid. So you got upper sativa, indica, downer, more relaxed, and your hybrids, which are your in betweeners. Like, I'm kind of high and I also want to chill. You know, those kind of guys. Psilocybin, um, in the four mushrooms that I per se use, golden teachers, big bangs, yetis, and albino penis envy. The yetis and the golden teachers are very much relaxed, indica vibe, chilled out. You more want to enjoy the environment around you. You want to look at the stars. You want to touch the ground. You want to smell the air and taste maybe even some very nice foods. Even sipping, tasting wines, because you don't swallow wine when you taste it, you just sip it, will be heightened. The flavors when you're eating food at food tastings. Oh man, mushrooms before a food tasting. Cannabis, you just get hungry. Mushrooms, you don't get hungry, but your taste senses are amazing, heightened. Visually, the brightness of the food, the coloration of the food, the smell, the aroma that's coming off that pie or that aperitif that you're about to put into your mouth. Something that there's the crunch of the food in between your teeth, the mouth feel, everything changes when you're on psychedelics. But if it's on too high, you won't want to put that in your mouth. You just got to keep it nice and low. And the feelings you get from the Big Bang and the APE, wow, that's like accelerated. It's like a sativa. It's an upper. You want to get up and go. You want to party. You want to be at the front. You want to be at the front where the bass is going at the DJ party. You want to climb over the walls and you want to go party with the neighbors because their sound system's sounding better than yours, or they got hotter chicks. One of the two. But you got to do it because you're feeling this vibe. You've got this rush going through your body. It feels amazing. It's like it wants you to get up and go. Different mushrooms have different vibes. And you'll notice that when you take too much of a dose, like if you're taking 1 or 2 or 3 grams of mushrooms, you won't actually notice the vibe that you're going to get from it. However, if you drop it down to like 1/4 of a gram or 1/2 a gram of mushroom, you'll get a much better reaction and much better knowledge of what you're taking. And then you'll be able to decide, well, I'm going on a hike today. I can take this kind of a mushroom because I don't want to feel too uppity, like, I just need there to be music in the background. Sometimes you just want to enjoy the stuff around you. A nice, wonderful golden teacher, like you were explaining. You don't have to go 5 grams. 5 grams is a hero dose. That's a lot. But half a gram, or even up to a gram of golden teachers, walking on a nice hike, fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. The visuals, as long as it's a nice, don't mountain climb, no paragliding per se, heavy equipment stuff. Try not to what's called down the back of a mountain, um, catamaran. No, there's another word for it. Abseil, abseil. Don't abseil, or maybe you could, depending on your abilities. But golden teachers are fantastic for out in the fire. But when you're at a party, and the DJ is coming on. It's like it's the first DJ of the night, and he's got some nice, decent music on, low BPM, 115s, 120s. Something nice and entry level to get the party going. Then a great way to start off is you have a little bit of GT before you get to the party, and that will get you into a mood. Because once you get there, you'll be happy and smiling, and you'll be saying "How's it" to everyone at the party. And when you get there, you take something a little bit stronger. So you take something like a Big Bang, which is going to get you into a slight party mood. A little bit more of an uppity, get you nice, still chatty, able to walk around, nothing too intense, and you can deal nicely with the party that's going on. Then you get to the most important part. The main headline DJ is coming on in 20 minutes. You reach in your pocket or your bag, and there is that APE chocolate sitting there. It's the APE. You know what it's for. You pick it up, you chuck it in your mouth. Half an hour later, you're talking a different language. You're in a different zone. You're in that nightclub you've been dreaming of for the last 20 years. The bass is rocking. The music is amazing. The environment around you is crazy. You just make sure you got some water, some nice juice, nothing too sugary, and nothing too lemony or zesty. It will pull you out. Stay there, drink nice and slowly, enjoy the vibe. You're in for about 6 to 7 hours, and enjoy your time. At the end of it, you'll walk out a door. You'll go from hi to hey, it's over. 20 minutes later, you'll be feeling a little bit better. Go down to the bathroom, do what you need to do, grab yourself a bottle of water, have some water. Another 20 minutes later, get in your car and drive home. You're sober. You've had the best time of your life. The nice thing about mushrooms is if you keep them nice and low dosed, you can gauge a party by what the party is. And you can't do that with alcohol. You can't do it with cannabis. But as long as you're changing the mushroom for what you need, it works out. And keep the doses low. Most important. Most important.
Amazing. So, guys, the viewers that you have watched this amazing, amazing podcast about psilocybin, we're not talking ceremonies and shamans. We're talking about just having some fun with it, understanding that you can use low dosages. And, guys, if you don't know Dan's mushrooms, definitely go check it out. All his details are below the video here. He's got an amazing range and he uses the most delicious chocolates. Because I've had chocolate mushrooms back in the 2000s and they did not taste good at all. Dan's chocolates were beautiful, absolutely amazing. Sorry, Dan, you asked? Fantastic. So, for you vegans out there, this is your product. Dan, we really appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Absolute pleasure to be here. Thank you very much to you and your audience, and I hope this worked out perfectly.
Thank you. Till next time. Ciao for now.
Bye.